Hey, Howard.
In case you need a lawyer, here's my business card. I'm attorney Howard Ankin.
Oh, hey, Howard.
If you or someone you know has been hurt at work, Ankin Law can get the medical bills paid, the lost wages reimbursed,
Oh, hey, Howard.
and the compensation you deserve.
Hey, Howard.
We're one of the largest filers throughout the state of Illinois of workers' compensation claims. We're here to help. Call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal, that's Ankin Law.
Hello, everyone. This is Josh Nelson, the host of the Sox Machine podcast. Welcome to a new episode as we record this show on Wednesday night, June 24th, 2026, as the Chicago White Sox just wrapped up their home series against the Cleveland Guardians. What a wild series this was between the White Sox and the Guardians. And good news for the White Sox, they continue their winning ways at home, winning 2 out of 3 against the Guardians, and the AL Central is tied up once again, heading to the halfway point of the 2026 season. This show's rundown, we'll talk about that wild series win against Cleveland. Did we have a top 10 win of the season this week? Pitching stars, Sean Newcomb, Anthony Kay, and Sean Burke. And we'll be previewing the upcoming series as the Kansas City Royals visit the South Side this weekend.
Yeah, it was a great series. To be able to win a series, especially against these guys, means a lot. At the same time, we were challenged a lot throughout this series, and some things that we can grow from and learn from, some things we got to clean up, but also a lot of positive stuff. From our pitching staff, I thought we did a great job of controlling them. A couple walks that you don't love to see, but overall, a really nice job, in the run prevention department.
That's White Sox manager Will Venable recapping the team's series win against the Cleveland Guardians. And now I'm joined by Sox Machine's beat reporter James Fegan and Sox Machine's managing editor Jim Margulis. And hello, gentlemen. A very good series win for the Chicago White Sox. So they go 1-5 on the road against the Yankees and the Tigers. They get swept by the Tigers and then turn around at home and win 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. And as we approach the halfway point of the season, they're tied for first place. I don't think any of us were expecting the White Sox to be where they're at. So this season continues to be a pleasant surprise. But James, I want to start with Monday because that is one of the more wild games we have seen this season, with Sam Antonacci saving Grant Taylor and Sir Anthony Dominguez with that walk-off 2-run single. What was it like being at the stadium and especially in the clubhouse after that win?
So because I'd actually, my mother and sister were at that game. And so my grand plan was I'm going to, I was already kind of head of steam and working on my Burke piece. So I was instead of normally I see them and they sit down and then I go back up after an inning or two. I was I'm going to try to finish this Burke piece and I'll come down and watch the end with you. Put the camera in my pocket, put the recorder in my pocket, and was prepared to just run out from the stairs. Seemed like a good plan until the 7th. Then things kind of flipped. Then it's being in the crowd as they're basically booing Sir Anthony Dominguez off the field, and it's in that moment. And I'm sure I would have had the thought in the press box too, but I'm feeling the atmosphere of discontent towards this guy. The impatience that credit to Sox fans. They've been beaten down, but they've quickly transitioned to a team, the fans of a team that's competing for a division that is unhappy with their closer. They're not what still throwing good velocity or anything like that. Any of the things you would do about a rebuilding team, he's still missing bats. You got to have patience. Progression's going to come. No, they're discontent with this guy. It's I'm texting Jim feels like we need to pivot a little bit and wind up writing a whole separate story that maybe I could have been working on if I was already not downstairs. But yeah, I think that hit home, and it was interesting, post game clubhouse, because you're talking to one, Antonacci never gives you exactly a buoyant guy. A couple he's not just pure radiating joy type of post game interview.
Right.
I think his emotions on the field, his emotions in person are usually pretty bifurcated. So he's he's trotting out that line about if you're mad about. I just asked him hey, what was the atmosphere in the dugout? And he's launches into this thing that he clearly just wants to say about not getting down on Sir Anthony, or not like, pointing fingers and saying like, if you don't, you're not suited for a group sport, go play tennis. I didn't realize that he had said that to Brooke on the field already, because I'm wearing like an open like sweater with like this tennis shirt I have t-shirt that has like a tennis racket on. And I was like, have I triggered Sam into thinking how much he hates individual sports? Or he's looking at me like, you want to go somewhere else, go play tennis. Thankfully, that was not the case, and he was kind of more giving a second draft to something he had already written in his head a little bit, which was a cool quote. I mean, I see people picking apart like, how would you not be mad with 2 runs? It's more just like standing up for your guy, and
Right.
talking about like how they have to be wired. Really, obviously, they need that mindset to be able to come back in that game. So they lived up to it. But the raucousness of obviously that finish, I basically hugged my mother and sister while the play was being challenged, and then got into the staircase. And then once they confirmed it, I ran up the steps and got to post game. But we talked to Sir Anthony post game with that as well. Like, he was obviously relieved, but still kind of frustrated. And then, I think probably more so than Detroit, just kind of saying like, I obviously, I think a lot of the year has been, Will Venable saying he's our closer, Sir Anthony trying to, shrug off the troubles as much as he can, saying like, this is one outing, or I made one bad pitch, and more just like, this is tough for me, I just blew back-to-back saves, was kind of the way he attacked that. At the same time, like, I know he wants to be there, and has certainly noticed that his usage is a little bit different. So it was a melange of emotions in the post-game clubhouse for sure. But it's kind of a weird series in terms of, I think I guess it was all 1-run games in the end.
Yeah.
And it's a series where they're like saying post-game, today, Wednesday, Gritchuk is like, we could have swept the series. And that's very true. And the bases loaded with 1 out against the seemingly wayward Sean Armstrong. Same time, they could have easily gotten swept in the series with a few different hits. So I think it looked like a pretty equal matchup, and definitely swung on some small things. And I think maybe reaffirmed like, the Sox are in here. They're in this business. They're going to be in this mix, and that's a credit to them. It doesn't seem like they quite have, at least in this non-Murakami having portion, that they're going to like take off and blow away, even a Jose Ramirez-less Guardians team.
Yeah, I'm expecting a tight race in the second half, which is great. We weren't expecting any kind of race this season, Jim. So I will take it, but it will be nerve-wracking as we approach the halfway point of the season. We'll have our first half grades episode after Sunday's game against the Kansas City Royals. So something to look forward to. We'll also be getting your guys' feedback, or seeking it, for those that follow us on social media, and for those that visit SoxMachine.com. Sam Antonacci's walk-off hit, Jim, that's a top 10 win nominee for the season, right?
I think I put both the best game and worst game tags on it. Sometimes a victory makes its way into the losses one, just because it was such a mess, and some failures were characteristic of the team's shortcomings, where even if they won it, they shouldn't have been in a position to win it like that in the first place, especially in back-to-back games. So we'll see how it shakes out. But in terms of moments, in terms of Antonacci doing it, I was thinking, like, going through the lineup, that he's the guy you want up in that situation, I think, just in terms of, I'm thinking of the White Sox facing Luis Ariz in the past, or Stephen Kwan. Kwan was tough this series for him, but in the past, when Stephen Kwan is, if not an all-star, like a very good player, and, Gold Glove winner, everything like that, like, just, they might not be the most dangerous hitter on their team based on, like, runs created or anything like that. But how do you pitch to them? How do you get them out? How do you get swing and miss when you really could use it? Somebody you can guide contact to various parts of the field and go where pitches are thrown. I was thinking, like, either Antonacci or Miguel Vargas are probably your 2 choices there. And given that was a righty on the mound, given that Antonacci has strong platoon splits, like, I thought, although he's a rookie, he kind of fits that mold of the guy that you most want to see if you're a White Sox fan, and probably least want to see if you know Antonacci well as an opponent or a fan of an opponent. Like maybe he's just not on your radar yet, but I think he's that kind of skill set where, yeah, how do you pitch to him in that moment to where like you feel like you can get him out? Not that he can get himself out or he can get out, but just it's just a hard guy to approach when you absolutely need an out. And so you even saw that with the broken bat single, like
Yeah.
obviously should have been a routine ground out, but just because he can put the ball in play, because he can, face a righty with comfort and, stand in on the plate and get on base that way, but also that maybe change the way guys have to approach him. Uh, he can do a lot of damage when they have to come in the zone to him. And the funny thing is, like, they didn't have to come in the zone to him. They had a base open. So that might be a benefit of him still being largely unfamiliar, or a rookie who isn't scary because he's got 4 homers this year. So he's not somebody who's, causing pitchers to tremble on the mound, but certainly has that bat to ball ability and I think a sense of the game to where, yeah, basically top 2 for guys you want up when you just need a single.
And then on the flip side, Wednesday's lost. So to piggyback James off Randall Grichuk and his comments of how the team had an opportunity to sweep, they sure did. I really thought we were going to be talking about another big moment this season when Braden Montgomery and Randall Grichuk went back to back home runs in consecutive pitches against Cade Smith, who leads the league in saves. I mean, Cade Smith has been the American League's best closer this season. I don't think he's on the same level of the type of season that Mason Miller is having for the San Diego Padres, but Cade Smith has definitely been pitching like an all-star this year. And the White Sox got to Smith twice in this series, and I think that is a great sign. But they weren't able to complete that comeback because they went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. You could read on how that went down on SoxMachine.com as James had the game recap. And I sent out a tweet after the game about Chase Meidroth and his stats with runners in scoring position. And I do want to apologize to Chase because I could understand at that time that's kind of piling on and what is probably a frustrating time for him. I have been noticing the game is getting to him, Jim and James, in the sense that he's batting more frequently in the middle of the order. But Meidroth has played 76 of the 79 games this season, and he hasn't been getting that many breaks. And in his last 15 games, Chase Meidroth has been in a slump. He's batting 232 with a 271 on base percentage. He's slugging 304. And this is uncharacteristic of him. He struck out 21 times to just 1 walk. So the fact that Meidroth has only walked once in his last 15 games is a little bit bizarre for him. The strikeouts are really piling up. And unfortunately, baseball is just cruel sometimes. When you are cold, the game finds a way that you are at the plate with the game on the line. And unfortunately, with the bases loaded, 1 out, 3-1, hitting that weak grounder to shortstop does not match anything that the White Sox have been preaching when it comes to hitting. James, is this something like, I know Will Venable was mindful of Miguel Vargas and how much time that he's been playing and gave Vargas most of that game off before using Vargas in a pitch hit situation. I have to imagine as we get closer to the All-Star break, some of these regulars might be getting the day off just because they've been playing a lot.
Well, their days off are limited. They're usually half days off. They're usually just like not starting a certain situation. And I think, even Chase's current game count, has some of that. He's started 73 games, so he's had a couple of these half game off mixed in there. There's certain, like, fundamentally, like, I think more than like the runners in scoring position thing for me, it's like it's a pretty significant platoon split with his damage being like very highly against righties. And certainly 15-1 strikeout to walk ratio is not that's bad for anyone. But they had been kind of allowing for like, we're encouraging Chase to like take more shots, try to hit for a bit more slug. We'll take a little bit more contact for that, and up, certainly through May, that was kind of paying off. I think with the platoon split thing, like single year like runners in scoring position numbers for any individual are probably going to be pretty
Very
squished
volatile.
or very volatile. The bigger thing is like if the platoon split holds, like that's going to be the matchup he's going to get late in games when like he comes up to a crucial situation. So like that could wind up like crimping his runners in scoring position numbers a little bit. So yeah, they gave him like a day off after like a bad game, I want to say, on the last road trip, and it certainly looks like a little out of whack now, and he certainly wanted to like play through nagging things in a way. I'd still say like I expect him to be fine overall, rather than like this is some defining thing where he can't hit with runners in scoring position. And certainly with the contact ability he showed in the past, you'd think like a recalibration from 25% strikeout rate what he's at right now is possible. That said, like yeah, he's definitely slowed down this month, and I think a little bit with Grichuk hitting the way he is, and braiding up now and kind of being everyday in right field. If Acuna is like showing a pulse, I think you have some options to sit him certainly against like right-handed pitching maybe a bit more often you were, or give him more days off where he doesn't have to be like a guy who basically plays every day. They have some alignments I think are viable with that, and especially would be true whenever Murakami gets back. But like if you're going to use, if Grichuk is like more and more like hitting against right-handers and is someone that they're comfortable playing in left field a bit more often, like an alignment where like Antonacci starts at second and Grichuk hold down left against a righty, if Chase is struggling or just like want to ratchet him down to maybe 5 games a week instead of 6 like every single time.
Yeah.
That's an option they could go down to eventually. That said, like they love this guy a lot and he's a huge part of like their team identity and he's a good defender. So I don't think I'd be surprised to see something drastic in response to him struggling. I'd also be surprised if it went on for like a protracted amount of time. Like I think Meidroth's a solid little player and we'll probably figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. And watch the next couple of months, Jim, with runners in scoring position. Meidroth has a 900 OPS, and he's just hitting singles all over the field. It's just that's something that I notice is he's been a little bit cold. So I apologize to Chase. I shouldn't have piled on
What
there.
did you say?
And I just tweeted that he has a 577 OPS with runners in scoring position. That was the tweet. Chase Meidroth is a 577 OPS with runners in scoring position. It's kind of taken off. A lot of, well, don't
That's
worry,
what I was wondering, like, what was the
Chalowski's going to
count?
be here.
What was the count on the retweets and responses?
Last I checked, it's over 80 likes. So I clearly hit a nerve with some White Sox fans who are like, don't worry, Rock Chalowski in the second half. He's going to replace come on. Let's be serious here. So Meidroth, a little bit cold in the month of June. Hopefully that will get corrected. Who is hot in June for the White Sox offense? Randall Grichuk. I mean, 5 home runs. His OPS is over 1,100 this month. Andrew Benintendi, 13 RBIs leading the team this month. Antonacci's got a 935 OPS, and Luis Angel Acuna has a 367 average this month and 6 stolen bases. So let's go into that game situation on Wednesday, Jim, because this is also a sticking point that I'm seeing online. So 10th inning, runner on second base, Acuna is batting, and he lays down a bunt immediately to sacrifice Vargas from second to third base. There are some White Sox fans that are advocating that you should have let Luis Angel Acuna swing away. He's been a hot bat. Let's see what he can do. Do the White Sox play it right with the sac bunt?
I would say, yeah, I get why they bunted just because a lot of his contact goes to the left side of the infield. So if you're looking to get a runner over, like I think his outs are most likely to be unproductive if he makes an out. He's not somebody who can drive the ball to right field. He doesn't easily go the other way with any authority. So if you absolutely need to get Vargas over, and you really want to set up multiple opportunities, like take advantage of being home and know exactly like how many runs you have to score to keep the game moving or get past it. Yeah, that's, I think the reason why is just he's improving. Like he's been finding ways to make himself useful, but still the ground ball rate is pretty high. Yeah. So his ground ball rate's nearly 60%. And most of it is pulled. So that's kind of what you're looking at is if you don't trust Cleveland to lapse on its infield alignment, then you're counting on like a single getting through. to make something happen. And yeah, probably not going to happen based on just the odds.
Well, for the White Sox, they're pitching a lot better against the Guardians, especially three key pitchers. We're going to start with Sean Newcomb, James, and that was a big save that he picked up on Tuesday, an almost 3 inning save in a 1-run game. And his role with the White Sox has been flexible. He started that bullpen game against the Tigers, was nails, 3 scoreless innings. The White Sox don't know what to do. They don't know how to close out Tuesday's game because they pitched Grant Taylor and Sir Anthony Dominguez in back-to-back games. Sean Newcomb, been nails. You've been kind of advocating for Newcomb to being the bullpen MVP for the White Sox so far halfway through this season. And I guess for White Sox fans, should we just continue to expect his role to be either you can call it flexible or unpredictable, that he's going to open sometimes and maybe now he'll get some save opportunities?
Well, I think opening is more when they are missing a spot of the rotation. I think they mostly use their openers as kind of like the shorter guys in terms of usage because they're supposed to give way. Newcomb is someone who turns the lineup over pretty much if you want him to. So like using someone like Heiser or Murphy or even Hudson is more like, let's get you through this top slate of righty. So if anything, like Newcomb was probably just like, he started that bullpen game because he's like the closest thing to a starter in the bullpen. He's really got the arsenal. And I think like a small thing I noticed, like him knocking down the 3 inning save, is like he kind of still works like a starter. Like he works like he's like Burley, like he works extremely quickly. Like the tension kind of had a hard time building in his save because he was just like getting it and throwing it so much. Like people didn't like by the time people are getting in their feet to clap for Austin Hedges, he's like 2 pitches into that at bat already. But I asked Will Venable a little bit, especially on the heels of like the 2 kind of blowups from Taylor and Dominguez, is that like to look at this, like, to cut to the chase, like they got 4 trusted leverage guys right now. Like I could dither on like other options, and Chris Murphy's looked good his last 2 times out. Yeah, they have 4 trusted guys right now. So if you're having like they use the 3 of them that are on the shorter length in both Sunday and Monday in pretty straightforward leverage opportunities, and Newcomb's the one that floats around. So asking, because he can do multi innings. So in asking Venable, it's like if you're having 2 that are kind of on the fritz right now, and I think Grant Taylor looked pretty good on Wednesday, even with the 2 soft singles that got through. So maybe not really him either. But if you have Dominguez struggling, do at some point you try to pull, because they talked about it in the past and they had him using it a little bit. Do you pull Newcomb from being like this fun tool we break out twice a week where he throws 2 innings or 3 innings back to working more often, but working maybe like an inning or 1+ sometimes, and he's just available to you 3-4 times a week? You could be part of that leverage mix more traditionally. And the answer was kind of like not really. And one of the things is that Ben was like, I think a sound strategy is to have our best pitchers pitch the most innings. And right now is like the multi-inning guy on the bullpen. Like Newcomb's on pace for 95 to 100 innings. Sure, you have him available more often, and you feel like you have this tool in place when you really need a good inning if you pull him back. But the raw math outside of the game-to-game situation says like this guy has been your best reliever, and he's going to throw 20-25 innings more than your other relievers based on how he's currently working. Does the leverage of those situations or having available for the 8th and 9th cancel out just the sheer volume he can give you? I don't know. And also, like, there's only so many guys who can do what Newcomb's doing. Like, I don't think it's suited. Well, obviously, none of us are advocating like 2-ups for Sir Anthony Dominguez on a regular basis right now, but like his arsenal, and especially having like kind of the reverse platoon splits, but still being like a big side armor against lefties, really just like makes him, I think, solve kind of problems in that longer role that the other guys can't as readily, or at least as often do, where if you get a short start, if you have like a slate of lefties, but you also have like pinch hitters who could come in the situation. If you have a down bullpen day where you need somebody to like drag you to the 9th inning in some way that the others you otherwise need to chain 2-3 guys together to do, I think he's kind of a unique weapon that it doesn't sound like Venable's trying to change his usage in some way.
Well, the other two pitching stars for this series, Jim, Sean Burke and Anthony Kay. Like Sean Burke, that was not a fluke what we saw against the Yankees. He was able to duplicate his performance against the Guardians, hold them to 1 run. Fantastic start for Sean Burke. Great to see. And Anthony Kay, like that's what's lost in Monday's crazy win. Anthony Kay was great. 6 scoreless innings for the White Sox. He deserved that win, Jim. Doesn't get it because of the bullpen chaos, but it's a good sign. We know the White Sox need to add another starter. Yes, this is like the 6th consecutive podcast. We know the White Sox need to add another starter if they're going to be serious post-trade deadline, but it's a good sign to see Anthony Kay and Sean Burke in a big series really step up their performances.
Well, especially against bad offense, which Cleveland has. Like this month with Ramirez out, with DeLauder out, it's a thinner offense, really kind of lacking a centerpiece. So it sounds like
they may have one in Khalil Watson with the way that he hit against the White Sox.
Apparently, yeah. Just there's somebody emerges, but a nailer emerges basically somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the kind of thing where if Cleveland's offense is down, White Sox pitchers should be able to step up, especially guys like Burke and Kay, who are, I would say number 4-ish starters on the aggregate based on whether they look like they can go 6 innings or 3 1/3 in a given game, which kind of happens a little bit too often or has in the past. But if they are facing an offense that is pitchable, they should be able to pitch to them, and they did. Like they win 6 innings. So it kind of sounds like a knock saying like, yeah, it was a bad offense, but it's the American League. It's a bad American League. Part of the reason why the White Sox are where they are is because the league isn't impressive, and a team like the White Sox that has some talent that isn't projecting well yet because they just don't have track records. Like this is their opportunity to add losses to teams that weren't supposed to have them. So like when you have wins that are, if not on the table, at least there for the taking with a offense that's down and pitchers who are starting to find their form, like, yeah, find that form, like establish that form, reinforce it. And they did.
Well, it was a great series win for the White Sox. Yeah, it would have been nice if they had swept Cleveland, but they entered this series 1 game back at Cleveland. They leave this series tied with Cleveland on top of the American League Central, and they continue their winning ways at home. So that is a good sign for the White Sox, and we'll be previewing the upcoming weekend series against the Kansas City Royals in a moment. But a couple of cap tips from this series. 1 to Brooke Fletcher for becoming the first woman to serve as a color analyst in the TV booth for the Chicago White Sox, as Steve Stone could not broadcast the last 2 games. That had to be incredibly tough. Brooke, you did an excellent job to come in cold and be like, well, Steve's not showing up. You want to call a baseball game? For listeners, imagine for us to do an hour-long podcast cold is tough. Try calling a baseball game with 2 teams vying for first place with very little preparation other than what you were doing to get ready as a sideline reporter. So that was incredibly impressive by Brooke to step in very short notice. Congratulations to Brooke. You did a great job.
Especially on Charities night, just because there's so much stuff that they have to get to, so many things they have to promote, so many things to read and things to cut to that there's already a lot on the plate, and then have to weave in and out of like actual baseball analysis or react to what's going on. You can kind of tell here and there, just, Schriffen and Fletcher just talking over each other, but there's just so much to get to. With Charities night that just, I would have been overwhelmed.
Yeah. I thought she crushed it under the circumstances, and she knows baseball. I mean, come on. She's grown up in the game. Everything for Brooke Fletcher is baseball. So good job, Brooke. And also a cap tip for White Sox Charities Week. If you weren't tracking along as far as the game on Tuesday, Locked On Sox from the 108 Sox and 35th participated in the t-shirt battle, and they promoted a lot of the charity as far as the grants that they gave to a lot of the community centers throughout the South Side. It's one of the best parts of the Chicago White Sox organization with what Christine O'Reilly does and that entire team as far as the community relations. It's one of the more fun things as far as covering Sox Fest, where we do have that media day James and I got a chance to visit that Boys and Girls Club and to see in person all of the upgrades that the White Sox were able to provide for those kids in Bridgeport. So always a cap tip to the White Sox Charities teams. You guys do a great job.
Howard, my dad was T-boned by a utility vehicle. What should I do?
Aiken Law is injury law made personal. If you've been hurt at work, in a car accident, or suffered a medical mistake, call 312-6-million.
Now, the Chicago White Sox have Thursday off, and here come the Kansas City Royals this weekend. The Royals are 34-47. They're last place in the American League Central. They are currently 8 games behind the Chicago White Sox in the division. That will never get old this season. They lost their last game. The Royals have been playing better baseball as of late. They are 6-4 in their last 10. And just like the White Sox, they are struggling on the road. Identical road record as the White Sox. They are 15-25 this year away from Kauffman. The season series, the White Sox currently lead 5-2. So if the White Sox win this series, they win the season series against Kansas City. That won't get old either. Your pitching probables for this weekend. Kansas City has no clue who is starting any of these games. They are to be determined. So that's going to be a storyline of what the Royals have planned for the White Sox. But on Friday night, 6:40 p.m. Central Time, this is Illinois State University night. And also the post-game concert with DJ Marshmello. We'll find out who the White Sox could possibly start on Friday from James in a moment. Saturday afternoon, 3:10 p.m. Central Time start. This is the 1983 reunion. It's also the America's 250th birthday shirt. So first 15,000 fans get a free t-shirt. It'll be the Dart, Davis Martin taking the ball for the White Sox. And then on Sunday, it's Nickelodeon Day on Kids Day. It's also World Baseball Classic Kyle Teal bobblehead. I do have to remind folks, if you want this bobblehead, it is a separate ticket. Go to whitesox.com to purchase that separate ticket to get the bobblehead. Anthony Kay will be making that start for the White Sox on Sunday. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, after the series against the Royals, we will be giving out our midseason grades. So that'll be our next episode. James Fegan, what is going on for the White Sox on Friday night when it comes to the pitching? Is this another bullpen day, or could we see a call-up?
I feel like a lot of signs point to it being David Sandlin. He was lined up to pitch on Friday in Charlotte, and now is not. Will Venable said that they felt like they were more likely to use a starter in that slot than go another bullpen day. He said when they did the bullpen day, he didn't want to keep doing bullpen days. It obviously led to them being very stretched in this series, having used Sean Newcomb and then having to use Sean Newcomb again in a way that Sean Newcomb certainly reflected was probably stretching them a little bit above and beyond with what he had to do. So Sandlin's beyond the 15 days. Everything lines up. They're being quiet about it, but certainly like no other alternatives have really been offered that make sense. Noah Schultz needs one more rehab start this weekend. Mason Adams literally just pitched while we were talking, or a couple hours before, so that's not an option. I think it's hard to see what would otherwise kind of really take hold, but maybe they're hoping for another rain out to kick their decision down. Also, they've slated Martin and Kay, who they could have moved up to Friday, given the off day, to still get their regular rest. That all just seems very setting up to bring up a starter. And yeah, that's my guess for what happened. Yeah.
All right. So we can see David Sandlin.
Sandlin's thrown 5 and 6 innings in his 2 starts since, so he's stretched out to where
there was some feeling like, all right, maybe we give this guy was just getting done with his rehab, and so now they feel like they gave him a few more full starts under his belt. So it all seems like it should line up for that.
If you visit SoxMachine.com daily, you know that Jim writes up the minor keys and recapping all the action down to the minor leagues for the Chicago White Sox. Mason Adams is a name that continues to pop up, Jim. And just with how well that he's been throwing, I didn't see in how he threw today for the Charlotte Knights. But the White Sox need some help on the starting pitching front. Mason Adams, popular name last year. Could he be making a start for the White Sox soon?
Yeah, he threw 5 shutout innings again for
Okay.
Charlotte, in Charlotte against Rochester, first place team. So that's
All
pretty
right.
impressive, both terms of environment and opponents. And yeah, he's always been an extreme command-oriented pitcher, kitchen sink pitcher. And the worry when he had Tommy John surgery was one, can't really afford to lose velocity, come back with anything diminished because he kind of like sits 91. So if he's sitting 90, all of a sudden like that, it thins his margin for error. And then if he has the typical command issues for somebody coming back from Tommy John surgery, like he could pitch past that. But you might take him a while to where like you can't necessarily count on him uh, stuffing his way past these command lapses in his first year back. So I was expecting a conservative timetable for him. I was thinking like, Drew Thorpe might be back ahead of him and maybe even Kai Bush, because, depending on how Bush's stuff looks, you coming back. But both of them have had setbacks and Adams has been on schedule. And then like, yeah, he's not walking guys. He's missing bats kind of as well as he can. The fastball seems to have gained a little bit since his last days in Charlotte before the surgery when he was kind of dealing with the back issue or coming back from that. So perhaps he'd been down a little bit before that and, getting surgery and resting the other injury, allowed him to get stuff back. But yeah, he's looks like he's in line for an audition. Yeah,
So
I
what's his velocity now then?
it's been like 92. So, which is what you're going to get from him. It's a case where he was always, a third day draft pick, undersized. He's not imposing in any way until you see him pitch, and then it's just a matter of like he's just getting guys out and getting guys out pretty quickly, to where it's 12 pitch inning, 14 pitch inning, 9 pitch inning, and then he's just cruising through. So major league hitters could expose that, or maybe not. Maybe he'll be useful, or maybe he'll be one of those guys who evens out to like a 4.50 ERA or something like that, but kind of a watchable one, a guy you don't mind having in the fifth spot in rotation. So, yeah, worthy an audition. Looking forward to seeing it happen when it happens.
All right. Well, again, this is the final weekend of the first half of the season. Of course, some will say, well, the first half's on to the All-Star break, but then you're already past 90 games. The White Sox will be entering game 81 over the weekend against the Royals. Jim, on Sunday, one of my favorite annual traditions on Sox Machine, double up post. So he'll be gathering all the numbers from the first half and what guys are on pace for in the 2026 season. This year it's going to be a lot of fun. So I can't wait to read that post. But the last thing we'll touch on in this episode, who needs a big weekend to finish the first half strong? Jim, I'll start with you. Who needs a big weekend for the White Sox?
Feels like Meidroth recently. I think, Teal is still working his way back to where you don't know exactly what his final form is going to be this year. Acuna has turned around to where he's a nice component on the bench. Jacob Gonzalez might be one based on his slump, although he had a couple hits at least. The curse of Keith Law, or the weight of Keith Law's expectations, crushing him after getting the raves that White Sox fans don't associate with Keith Law discussing a White Sox prospect, and he goes like over 25 or something like that. It's great, just poetry like that. But yeah, otherwise, like it's a pretty deep lineup where the guys who are not doing it are either rookies or coming back from injury to where they don't need the weekend. So I'd just say like Meidroth for just the strikeout rate.
How about you, James? Is there anyone that comes to mind that you would like to see have a big weekend to finish the first half strong?
I would like to interview a winning or blocking out a save Sir Anthony Dominguez post game. He's had to wear a lot of losing closer post games, and I think it'd be nice to tilt the balance. That was definitely why we kind of wanted to wait out Sean Newcomb the other night to give relievers their shine when they do well, because they often have to face the music when they're struggling. Like the absurdity of talking to Grant Taylor the other day about like him struggling when he's been melting faces for most of the last like 2.5 months.
Yeah,
He even said like it's really been 5 good months up until this for my career. But Sir Anthony Dominguez is someone who one, just watching him get booed out the field the other night, but is someone who's certainly juggling a lot in terms of Venable clearly does not use closers in a way that I think like any closer would think like this is what my job is going to look like as a closer. So I think like even if people don't want to hear it from him when he's struggling as the way he is, like I think there's room for him to say that it was surprising to him, and I think he said it professionally. At the same time, like he's also had to talk about like he's just not throwing strikes, he's not getting ahead of hitters. I feel like the stuff is kind of there, so he kind of identified something mechanically after the Milwaukee outing at the start of the season, and like had some good outings after that. Seemingly could do that again. The fact that it's kind of getting pretty loosey goosey command wise multiple times this season obviously isn't good, and we do walk at this rate last year, so you wonder how much they can hem it in. That said, like he's been good. He's been an effective leverage guy before, even if he isn't like established closer good. Well, the good news is that Will Venable is, clearly obviously throwing Brant Taylor at what he actually thinks is the most dangerous leverage spot in every game anyway. So getting Anthony back to just what Sir Anthony Dominguez is it for a long time, I think will be perfectly fine for this bullpen setup. And, it'd be nice to see him get to enjoy that.
Yeah, a clean inning for Sir Anthony Dominguez this weekend would do everyone good. The White Sox, Sir Anthony, White Sox fans, I think that's a great call. James, mine is Jacob Gonzalez. He got a couple of hits on Wednesday, but he was like in a 0 for 28 slump. He's going through a lot, and he's trying to learn how to hit major league pitching. Also try to learn on how to play major league first base. A lot's been thrown at Jacob Gonzalez to trying to fill in for Munetaka Murakami. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine, which if you're watching this show, I hope you are, James did ask Will Venable that question. It is part of our YouTube Shorts collection, so you can check out that short in which Will Venable gave an update for Munetaka Murakami. The hitting is ahead of the running right now, so we'll see. It's undetermined how close Munetaka Murakami is rejoining the White Sox. With that being said, it's going to be a lot of Jacob Gonzalez. It's still going to be a lot of Miguel Vargas at first, so it'd be great if Jacob Gonzalez could have a strong weekend against the Royals before we enter the first half. Fun series for the White Sox. Great series win for them. Let's see how this weekend goes. But that will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you just discovered the Sox Machine podcast, you can subscribe to the audio version of the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. You could watch the show now on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine, and along with all of our other videos, our post-game press conference videos and other feature videos and our shorts as well. We've been doing a lot more video content to get you guys a lot more White Sox content, especially from the clubhouse. So if you are watching our videos, please visit youtube.com/Sox Machine and subscribe today. You can follow us on social media. We're on all the social media platforms at the Sox Machine. You can follow James at JR Fegan. He'll be at the games this weekend covering them again for us. You can follow me at Sox Machine _Josh. What really helps Sox Machine is our subscribers, and you can subscribe at soxmachine.com/products, in which our monthly plans start at $5 a month, and that gets you the ad-free version of both the podcast and the website, unlocks the comment section as well. But we're still running the sale on your first month. And where are we now, Jim, after a White Sox series win?
They've been hovering around 52 cents last few days, like on rounding up, rounding down. So yeah, it's made it easy for me to check the price and be like, nope, no tweaks necessary. So 52 cents for the first month.
There you go. 52 cents for the first month, and then $5 a month after that. Again, sign up at soxmachine.com/products to become a Sox Machine subscriber. We also have additional tiers of support, including our Veterans Committee, which gets you into the group chat. We're going to have some exciting news at Sox Machine to announce, and our VC members already know about that news, and they also get to hear all about the gossip and the whispers and the gossipers from James at the ballpark. So if you want more, you can get more. Go to soxmachine.com/products and sign up today. The Sox Machine podcast is a production of soxmachine.com. You're for all things Chicago White Sox baseball. Alongside James Fegan and Jim Margulis, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.